Hello, I hope that you're all doing well. This is technically part two of what you'll be peer editing. So, this is what you'll be peer editing next week. Just a reminder, this week you are peer editing part four. And just a reminder as to what that is, that was posted last week. And part four includes your plan, your budget, and your discussion. So those three sections you should be sharing with your assigned peer editing partners by the start of class on Thursday. So that's when it's due. That's when you should be sharing it with them. And then you have all of Thursday evening as well as all of Friday to peer edit their work. And please make sure that their work is shared with them, shared with myself via Google Docs. And then you can make sure that you are peer editing absolutely everything. Use those checklists in our textbook and just make sure that that is finished by midnight on Friday so that your partner can look at what you had to say and revise their work from there on out. Since this is the last section, I just want to go over what it is, why we're doing it last, despite it being part two. It does go a bit earlier on in your paper. And today we're just going to be going over executive summary as well as our works cited page. And I'll be posting additional resources for you. Okay, so just a few things. The executive summary, and if you're looking at my note right over here, it should be 10% of the final length of your paper. So you are supposed to be writing a paper that is between 15 and 20 pages in length. This means that your executive summary, depending on how long your paper is, should be 1.5 to 2 pages in length. There are a few sections that it should include. It should include your problem/population section, that's your introduction, your paradigm section, your literature review, theories, models of success, your plan, your budget, and your call to action or your discussion. Now, this is going to feel a bit redundant when you write this. The executive summary is a mini version of your paper. So you're basically writing about those different categories that I just went over, and you're writing it in a condensed space. The purpose of the executive summary, if your patron has a vice president underneath them or someone who's very close to them and they work very closely with them, and they just want a second opinion on the proposal, they can just give them the executive summary. And just from reading the executive summary, that vice president, that close business partner should be able to read it and have a thorough understanding of what you're accomplishing, asking for, the purpose of your proposal. So just keep that in mind. This is a section that should be persuasive. You should be using quotes. You should be going through in a chronological order of the problem, population, paradigm, plan, budget, and discussion. And it should be only highlighting the most important parts of what you're including in your longer, more developed paper. So I oftentimes will have a lot of students ask, this is kind of weird. I feel like I'm being redundant, or I'm using the same quote that I used in my introduction since it's for a different audience. Is that okay? The answer is yes, it is okay. So for instance, if we're looking at Alex's, he has this paraphrased citation and it says, yet 13% of the population of the US continues to experience some form of food insecurity. If then in his introduction section later on, he has that same quote, it's okay, because remember, the executive summary is for someone who works closely with your patron, just so they could give it to that person for a second opinion on the proposal. So if you're reusing some data points or some language that's in your introduction, it's okay. The hardest thing that you have to do is figure out what are the most important parts of your proposal that you can mention in your executive summary to make sure that you're getting the point and purpose of your proposal across in a thorough manner, despite it only being 10% of the length of your final paper. So we're just going to look at a couple of different pieces. I'll let you read Alex's executive summary in your own time, but I just wanted to talk about how his is structured, how much time he's spending on each section, et cetera, et cetera. So this first paragraph is totally focused on him establishing the problem. This paragraph right here extends on his definition of the problem and how he's quantifying the problem. He also starts to talk about his population here. So we can see these first two paragraphs are solely focused on what would be the introduction of your final proposal. Going down, Alex is still talking about the problem in population here. He offers more statistics. Remember, just a reminder that everything in this pinkish purple color are cited statistics that he's using, and you can see that he has the proper in-text citation to follow. Going down, he starts mentioning his plan. And he also mentions the 4 pillars, and that's, remember, how his plan is structured. You might be structuring your plan into sections, into part 1, part 2, part 3. But the only recommendation I have here, although this is well written, I would make sure that you put your paradigm first, because going in that chronological order is essential. Going down here, he is sort of talking about a lot of the different models that he's using, but you want them to be a little bit more detailed. And you'll see if you scroll down, he did have a little bit more space to work with. His paper was closer to 20 pages. I think it was 18, so he could have extended a bit further. And that definitely would have been a better decision on his behalf. Down here, he goes a little bit more in detail into his plan that's based off of his paradigm. And then he talks very briefly about the price, and he closes with his call to action. Remember, guys, you want to make sure that you are really focusing on how it will be funded. So make sure that you're going a little bit more in detail than Alex has here. It's something as simple as maybe summarizing that pie chart that you did for your oral presentation, or if you've already written your budget section, just looking at it and thinking, how can I phrase that in this section to make sure that that budget is clear and understandable to whoever is reading it. The one thing I do want you to know is that this is a section that gets lowercase Roman numerals as page numbers, and then the next section starts with our normal number 1 that we're used to. And lastly, a lot of students ask, am I allowed to use graphs or charts in this section? The answer is no. This section should be strictly writing, and it should be you really taking details and figuring out what needs to go into each of these sections, my, introduction, paradigm, plan, budget, and discussion. What can I take that are the most important to show my plan in a condensed manner? So hopefully this is helpful. There are more examples in the textbook that are also really well done. So make sure you're looking at the 2 examples. Remember, we have the one that's on civic engagement, and we also have the one that's on art therapy. So make sure that you're checking those out in the last chapter of the Magrino text. And then I just want you to scroll down. We've already gone over the rest of this paper. You'll see that this is the bulk of your paper, and we're just going to go down to the works cited page. I will just discuss a few things that are formatting things that I want you to be aware of, and then I'll post more resources on Module 13 that go over what needs to be done for the works cited. Most of you are doing a good job, but there are still some people that I've seen who have issues in their works cited page. So I'll make sure that I post resources for you, but please be sure to use that Magrino text too. The 2 exemplars in the text have perfect works cited pages. And then if you go back to the research chapter, there are so many resources on how to cite parenthetically and also how to cite in your works cited. So just a few things I want to note just so you can remember and make sure that you're doing this. You should have a works cited title at the top center of your works cited page. Note, it starts on a fresh page, okay? That's important for you to understand. It should be centered. It should be bolded. Next, guys, we have all of your sources. They should be aligned left. They should be double spaced. A lot of people are single spacing. It needs to be double spaced. You'll see that this is alphabetized. If there is no author, you can see that Alex just uses the title of the article or page that he was referring to. That's absolutely fine to do. You'll see that this is a scholarly source. Hold on, let me find an example. Here's a scholarly source right here. We know this because it's coming from the American Journal of Alternative Agriculture. We see the volume number, we see the issue number. We also see that it's coming from EBSCOhost. So please make sure that you are citing properly in a way that we can see whether or not your sources are scholarly. A lot of people in their midterms were missing different components of their citations, and it was very difficult to determine what the source was, where it was coming from, and that really serves as a disadvantage to you. So I'll just let you guys peek through this. Oh, a couple of other notes that I made here. See how this is in all caps? A lot of times if you use the library works cited generator, it'll generate an MLA citation for you. it'll do this. This is never correct. It does it on accident. They're mostly accurate, but sometimes they are flawed. So for this one, I just want to make sure that if this happens to you or you see this in your own citations, make sure that you're just taking away the all caps and just writing it normally. I think that's all. And then I will post those extra resources for you. Just know, guys, that you need 10 sources at least for your final paper, and just be aware of that ratio. Whatever your final source count is, you need at least half to be scholarly. You could always have more scholarly than popular, but at least half have to be scholarly. So if you have the minimum of 10, that means at least 5 of your sources should be scholarly. If you end up with 18 sources, some of you may have that many, 9 of your sources should be scholarly. There's just one more thing that I forgot to mention about the executive summary, and then that will be it for this lecture. So just note, guys, your executive summary starts on a fresh page. So we have the table of figures right up here. There is blank space. That's fine. Your executive summary starts on a fresh page. It goes on. Alex's is about a page and a half. Note, he leaves blank space. This is the end of his lowercase Roman numeral page numbering, which is fine. And then he goes on to the introduction. Leave this blank space. Once you start your introduction section, your sections can bleed into each other. Just to give you an example, here's the intro. You can see that his intro continues. It goes on. It goes on, and then it ends right here, but his literature review starts right underneath. That's okay. So once again, guys, please email me if you have any questions or if you need anything. And once again, just a reminder, this evening we'll be having an optional Zoom meeting just in case you have any questions or need clarification about any part of the final proposal. And I hope to see you then if you need my help. It's just a great time to sort of talk and ask questions since I can't see you physically in class. Okay, guys, I'll see you later. I hope that you're well.